Living condition can go from one extreme to another. But how does an organism cope with this extreme? In this experiment, we're going to be looking at invertebrates and how they deal with the extreme of temperature. So we're going to be looking at the woodlice, the millipede, and earthworm, and of course their response to temperature. We're looking at a choice chamber, and a choice chamber is simply, it could be a box with a separation in the middle, and of course a little window at the bottom so that the organisms can move if they so decide to. In this experiment, we have a light that is attached to one side of the choice chamber, and it is a hot light, so it's providing some amount of heat to that side of the chamber. And then the other side of the chamber, it is pretty cool. It's important to note that in this choice chamber there are 8 organisms. Right? For each side we placed 8 organisms. That would make a total of 16 organisms. Now the organisms are observed for movement, and you're supposed to be observing the choice chamber for the movement of the organism. Now we're using the earthworm, but the movement of the earthworm, it's pretty much typical to that of the woodlice and the millipede. Now, organisms will always respond differently, and this is because of variation. So variation might dictate that I can withstand, variation might say I can't withstand, and they will just move and move so that they can find suitable environment for which they can thrive. Now, organisms are going to move for a number of reasons. Organisms are going to move because they're in search of food, they're trying to escape danger, they're trying to escape predator. Organisms are going to move to find mate. Organisms are, of course, going to move so that they find suitable environmental condition, because if the environmental condition is not ideal, then the organism might suffer from burn, they might suffer from dehydration, they might be just too cold or too hot, and this of course could lead to death. So of course organisms are always making changes to stay alive. Now here we have some organism moving. There are some organisms coming from the cool side to the hot side. It's just not tolerable, and they are going back to the cool side. The organisms that were in the hot side, however, if you observe, they have slowly moved over the cool side. We started with 8 organisms on both sides, and now on the hot side we have only 1 organism remaining. Now this organism, you would observe that because of probably variation, this organism is able to withstand a higher temperature for a longer time than would the other organisms. However, the organism seems to be a little anxious now, and the organism is somewhat moving away from this high temperature. If you observe, however, there are some organisms which continue to leave the cool side, visiting the hot side, because they are not too comfortable with what is happening on the cool side. Something might be wrong. There might be some competition taking place on the cool side. There might not be enough food on the cool side. There might not be enough space on the cool side. There might not be enough water on the cool side. Might not be adequate mate on the cool side. There might be disease on the cool side. So of course the organisms continue to move in order to find an ideal condition in which they can survive. Now you're going to be required to write this lab up as a CXC or a science lab. If you are doing so, I advise you on going to look at my videos which cover labs for ORR. It will tell you exactly how you should write up this lab. If it's AI, you could go and look at that one. Measurement and manipulation, I also have a guide out for that, and I also have guide for drawing. So you want to ensure that you are watching those videos before you attempt to write this lab up. So the apparatus that we have here would have been the flashlight with this hot bulb and the choice chamber along with some earthworm. And of course this is a animation, so your teacher will put a time multiplier. In some cases the experiment would have taken a little longer time, so your teacher might add a time multiplier to the time of the video. So too your teacher might add a multiplier to the organism. For example, they might say one organism would actually represent 5 or 2 in the wild. Now, it's very important that you are able to liken this setup to the actual environment of the earthworm. In the wild, you'll find the earthworm living in a real cool shaded place, usually in the soil and where there is a decomposition of organic remain, because earthworms are considered to be detritivores, so they are also helping with aeration in the soil, and they are also helping to break down organic remains into smaller parts that our fungi and bacteria can act on them. The organisms on the cool side, they are still moving about. There are some organisms that are somewhat a little settled, they are moving very slow, and there are others that are moving a little faster than we would expect, because they are just anxious, they are not happy with something, and they are trying to find the ideal condition. But to go on the outside, definitely that is not a good idea, so they rather to stay on the cool side, despite the cool side does not offer the ideal condition. However, it is much better than to be on the hot side, because they have very thin body that is made up of a whole lot of water. So you understand heat and water and evaporation and drying out, and the whole term of desiccation, the organism being dried out. So the organisms are pretty much aware of that. These are invertebrate, and they know that this high temperature is not the best thing for me. This could mean the end of me today. As such, they continue to move. Please be reminded to check out our other videos. We have a couple of animation, not only labs, but we do have a couple of animation labs. We have some real labs as well, and we have animations for a number of the topics that we have covered. So you want to go to the channel and ensure that you check out our many videos. We're very grateful that you took the time out to watch this video to the end, and we're looking forward to see you in another video or in one of our live sessions. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to like, share, and of course, subscribe. You've been watching CSEC Biology, the cover page.